Greetings, everyone, and thank you for joining me to spend a few minutes talking about travel and entertainment expense substantiation best practices. Try and say that fast 5 times. I'm Mary Schaefer, publisher of Accounts Payable Now and Tomorrow newsletter, a newsletter that focuses on accounts payable issues, including travel and entertainment. Plus, I've also written 15 business books, mainly focusing on accounts payable issues, including travel and entertainment best practices. Before we get going for these few minutes, I'd just like to spend 30 seconds telling you what we're going to talk about. I'm going to start off by talking about the IRS and the role it plays in T&E expense reimbursement. Then we'll talk a little bit about receipts, and finally we'll focus in on an issue that some people, anyway, some folks have a little bit of a problem with their staff, and that is substantiating expenses. As many of you probably know, the holy grail when it comes to expense reimbursement plans is what's called an accountable plan. This is what allows you, if you conform to IRS guidelines, to deduct your organization's expenses from your company's tax return. Now, I like to say that the accountable plan has dual purpose. The IRS obviously set it up so that you'll know what the rules are so that you'll be in tax compliance. But I'd like to say it has another issue. It also gives us a framework that we can use to get employee compliance with our T&E policy. These guidelines are printed by the IRS in what's called Publication 463. Or they refer to it as Pub 463. It's available online for anybody to download. The link is right in front of you, but don't try and write that down. It's too long and complicated. Just go to irs.gov and search for accountable plan. You might have to do that anyway because the IRS is notorious for changing links. So go to irs.gov, search for accountable plan, or search for Pub 463, and print it, and you've got all the rules that you need to know. So I kind of alluded to the fact that I said the IRS could help you get compliance within your organization. Well, how is that? And I like to say let the IRS be the bad guy. When you've got to enforce a policy that's not popular with your employees, don't be the bad guy. Let it be the IRS. Say, you know, I would let you do it if it was up to me, but the IRS insists that we follow these guidelines. And that kind of takes some of the heat off. I want to focus a minute on receipts because these are the little pesky items, if you will, that cause a lot of problems when it comes to turning in expense reimbursement forms. For starters, you should know that the IRS requires receipts for all expenditures over $75. The IRS changed this limit in 1995, and it hasn't gone up since then. However, while it's $75 is the limit for the IRS, there are very few businesses out there that have that level. Now, I could probably spend an hour talking to you about that, but that's not what we're here for today. So just suffice it to know that most organizations have a requirement of receipts for all expenditures over $25. But know that you can make it lower if you want to. Some organizations require a receipt for any cash expenditure. And some organizations also require the detailed restaurant bill that shows precisely what was ordered. Organizations that tend to do this tend to be those that maybe have grants and need to show that, for example, that no liquor was ordered because there is a no liquor clause in the grant that they got. But some other organizations require it because they want to verify how many people were actually at the meal, if it was a meal. So just know that that's available, and some people do it and some people don't. So as we said, the IRS requires receipts for all expenditures over $75. If there is a business meeting at, like, for example, a restaurant, you need to also put down and have in writing the business purpose of that meeting and the names of all the attendees. Now, I know I hear from a lot of accounts payable folks or folks handling T&E that they get pushback from their some of their employees about why do we have to provide this? You know, you're being unreasonable. And again, fall back on the IRS. And you can find this in Publication 463 in a table that's entitled How to Prove Certain Business Expenses. It spells this out in black and white. The pages change each year, so I can't tell you exactly where it is when you in the pub that you'll be looking at, but the last time I looked it was on page 26. So look for that. It's a chart, how to prove certain business expenses, and it lists all the different types of things and what is required. So hopefully I've given you something to think about. I'd like just in closing to point out that don't allow noncompliance, because in theory, one employee not doing it right could result in you losing the accountable plan status for your entire organization. Now, I don't really think the IRS is that mean, but you do need to have compliance with these guidelines. Know that T&E is on the IRS's radar. It's something that they're looking at. It's something where they think that there is some noncompliance. So don't give them any fodder for their beliefs. And finally, just think about, do you have any loopholes? I'd like to thank you for spending a few minutes with me talking about T&E. If you'd like to learn more about current accounts payable issues, which include T&E, I invite you to sign up for a free weekly e-zine. It's on our website, ap-now.com. You can just go there, click on the button, and once a week you'll hear from me. I'd also like to point out that this little mini webinar that we've talked about here is part of a 60-minute one on T&E best practices, which we periodically give. It's also available on a CD. You can find more information on the link shown, or just go to our website and look for our CD page or our webinar page. Also, this information is included in the book I wrote for John Wiley, Travel and Entertainment Best Practices. You can get that on it from any of the online publishers, from Wiley directly, or if you want to go to our website to the resource page, you can click on the link there and get a 15% discount. Whatever you decide, I just hope you'll join us and sign up for our free weekly webinar, free weekly e-zine, I'm sorry. And I'd like to thank you for spending these few minutes with me.